Good morning and welcome to Caulks and Sealants in North America Market Report webinar with Katie Janis. My name is Mani Singh and I'm responsible for the Training Academy at the Adhesive and Sealant Council. I'm pleased to bring Katie to our program today. Ms. Janis' tenure at Ducker Worldwide began in the role of Industry Research Analyst. Nearly 20 years later, she co-leads the building materials sector. She is a building envelope expert with specific focus on roofing, cladding, and insulation products. In her role as principal, Ms. Janis has developed a strong consultative relationship with leading suppliers and associations to the building material industry. With a strong foundation in market research, she specializes in services such as business and market expansion, customer segmentation, and strategy. Ms. Janis assists with internal growth of Ducker by leading continuing education and training programs for the Ducker staff. Prior to joining Ducker Worldwide, Ms. Janis managed her own company conducting independent market research initiatives focused on market opportunity assessments for small businesses in Detroit, Michigan area. In addition, Ms. Janis is a speaker for various industry conferences in the building products arena. Ms. Janis holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in marketing from Michigan State University's Eli Bode School of Business. Over the next 30 minutes, Katie will provide an overview of the Caulks and Sealants market report and go over the methodology used to collect the data in the report. We also have Alexis Fresh from Ducker Worldwide and David Nick from DPNA International with us, who will be able to take in-depth questions during our Q&A session. In compliance with the antitrust policy, we request that any discussions related to cost and pricing are not discussed. At the conclusion, there will be an opportunity for Q&A, so please submit your questions in the question box on the control panel at any time during the presentation. Katie, if you will share your screen, we can begin the presentation today.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning. First of all, I want to thank the Adhesives and Sealants Council for inviting us here to provide an overview of the Caulks and Sealants report via this webinar. I also want to thank many of you for your participation today, but also some of you who may have participated in the effort in providing input and feedback. So thanks very much for the support of this program. Before we talk about the program itself and the report itself, I wanted to just provide a quick overview of Ducker for those of you that are not familiar with us. Ducker Worldwide is a full-service growth strategy services company. What this means is whether it be a market research strategy or a transaction advisory assignment, our goal is to help support companies or associations achieve their growth goals. The company was founded over 50 years ago with a primary focus on building and construction, transportation, heavy equipment, and industrials. And as you know, sealants and adhesives play a critical role in all these end-use segments. If you look at our building and construction practice specifically, we have coverage on most core components and stakeholders within both residential and non-residential construction. So we help companies with things like proactively understanding the seasonal inventory balancing act that plays out in distribution and big box, looking at labor shortages at the contractor level, Title 24 and how that may impact certain product use. So a lot of these things that really support market growth going forward. Okay, first I would like to take a step back and ground everyone really on the goal of this program. As you all know, one of the key pillars of the Adhesives and Sealants Council's offering is to really deliver knowledge. And as part of that collaboration, which leads to growth for its members. There are several reports that the association has made available to its members over the years, including the detailed market report on the North America Adhesives and Sealants report that David Nick has been instrumental in supporting over many years. In addition to these metrics, there were additional areas that membership was interested in pursuing in more detail, which we'll cover here in a bit. That's the background. Now let's talk about the purpose. Really the main goal of this report is to take a program that has been very successful in previous years and expand on it to enhance the value to companies like yourselves. So in addition to the data and metrics that DPNA typically provides, this report will also provide an additional layer regarding the drivers and trends behind the numbers based on feedback from the channel. And that's what's key here. This is all based on leveraging a lot of data that we've collected as well as DPNA, but really talking to the channel and getting feedback on where the market's going. So really that supply base. The value that this report will bring to the membership as well as non-members who are interested in getting the report is it will provide suppliers with the fact base needed to plan for future growth, first and foremost. It's going to support individual strategic planning initiatives to better drive product innovation, marketing efforts, and how to target the end customers more effectively, or at a minimum, really helping the channel in doing so more effectively. And lastly, this report covers some of the key regulatory and environmental programs that are currently taking place. And as you all know, there's a tremendous amount of work being done regionally and nationally, which can significantly impact the sealant market. We've talked in depth with key stakeholders of these programs to get a better sense of where these programs stand and the likely impact going forward. So those are some of the really the key areas that that report will provide. So if you look at really what was our process, there's a lot of different reports out there. Really what I would say the value of this report is there's a strong foundation and fact base based on independent, quality, and depth of discussions. So we spoke with key stakeholders. There was some secondary data used. Of course, that's essential to every project, but really the crux of this program is primary research. So we had several deep discussions, 30, 60-minute discussions with all levels of the value chain. All the interviews were conducted by DP&A and Ducker, which allows us to provide that independent, unbiased assessment of the current market and opportunities going forward. This approach is really what's differentiated Ducker over the past 50 years. We have that uncanny ability to have in-depth discussions with the right folks, whether it be contractors, OEMs, distributors, specifiers, or at the supply level. In addition to this methodology, it's important to note that we've been able to leverage our industry expertise. I spoke earlier about some of the key industry verticals that we participate in, and with that comes significant databases of information, including market and trending, as well as key contacts to support this initiative. In all, we spoke with about 100 companies. We just wanted to provide you with a little bit of a flavor and sample of respondents, just to show you really what the range was here. Again, it went anywhere from the supply base to environmental agencies, to distribution, and all the way down to that specifying and installing community. Okay, so we've talked about the purpose, we've talked about the process and the methodology. Let's now talk a bit more about the key topics covered, and then we'll get into some highlights. There are really 3 macro topics, but then a significant number of layers within. First of all, the report will cover the key market size numbers for the total North American caulks and sealants market. These are the numbers that you've seen historically in Dave Nick's reports. In addition to that, we also look at key drivers and trends impacting the sealant market. Here we talk about product shifts, service life prediction and end-use applications, air sealing trends, life cycle assessment requirements, type 3 PDs, and health product declarations, and a lot of the trends behind those. And lastly, we will get into some very specific sub-segment profiles. Specific to this effort, we focused in on roofing, fenestration, automotive, to include passenger and light-duty trucks, and then finally the DIY market segment. Which, with each of these sub-segment reviews, we cover the size of the sealant market within the sub-segment, as well as provide an assessment of the value proposition of each of the chemistries used, route to market, and purchase decisions. So it's really a good snapshot on really how do you tackle these markets and who do you target and with what messaging. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the key highlights. We've talked about the objectives and really what the report focuses. I'm going to go through a few slides that provide truly a back of the envelope. Obviously, the association selling the report, so I can't disclose too much detail here today, but we wanted to just provide you with some insights and an overview of some of the key themes that we've been hearing. Okay, starting with the size and growth of the total market. The North American market continues to grow at a higher rate than GDP. It was roughly about 3.2%. Much of this is being driven by auto production gains, which is expected to grow an additional 5 to 6% in the next year or so. Construction activity rebounding, as well as trends that are impacting a greater use of sealant products, things such as energy efficiency, air sealing, and so forth. If you look at it from a technology perspective, silicones and polyurethanes dominate the sealant market with about 2/3 share. This will remain pretty consistent going forward, but we'll talk a bit more about the growth of some of the hybrid products. Although the market is poised for growth, there are trends which we've highlighted briefly here. We kind of call it more of a wait-and-see trend that could drive very positive changes in the industry or very negative changes in the industry. That being environmental and health hazard-based product movements, such as category rules, life cycle assessments, EPDs, and health product declarations. Looking at the regulatory changes like TSCA reform, TDI, SNUR, and others. And lastly, new technologies and more science-based decisions to support service life predictions and or air sealing solutions. So the report goes into a lot of depth of these three areas, but these really are very impactful trends that are changing the market or could potentially change the market going forward. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit more detail now on each one of these. So specific to some of the environmental and health hazard movements, there are concerns at all levels of the value chain. A lot of that's being driven by the impact on costs and the complexity of LEED version 4, and really the architect's ability to understand it. So you really have a couple schools of thought in a really a wide spectrum from within. You've got a certain group that is very supportive, and then you have another group that is really concerned about the amount of information and training that will be needed to really educate these architects. We highlight here just some key verbatims. Throughout the report, we do have verbatims throughout. Again, really the focus on this is the voice of the customer. It's one thing for us to tell you and synthesize what everybody's saying, but we always find that actually providing some direct quotes really, it can be a powerful tool. We put in here just some more of the negative perspective, which is always fun to go through. I'll give you a minute to read through them. Okay, now I want to get into some of the subsegments we looked at. I'll just touch on some high-level insights for the purpose of this webinar, but the report itself, again, goes through significant detail regarding where caulks and sealants are used within the subsegment, and size and opportunity of caulks and sealants, and the decision process that really drives the use of these products. The first one we'll look at here is roofing. So if you look at the key applications where these products are used, again, obviously within each of these subsegments there's several opportunity areas. Some of the key ones that we cover is lap joints, the edge seal, penetrations, and then sealing counterflashing to the chimney and any other sort of porous type area. From a segmentation standpoint, both residential and non-residential are large segments with ample opportunity, but the market is driven primarily by retrofit applications. So if you look at, from a total market perspective, and this is on the residential and the commercial side, it's really a kind of a 75-25 split. Polyurethanes and silicones are the predominant products used. You can see a quote here that an architect provided regarding some of the product trends. Silicones are typically more resistant to UV, so they last longer. But urethanes are starting to be developed that have better UV resistance. So there's a lot of, we always say in this industry, certainly accurate statements and perceptions, but we always say in this industry perception is reality. And you'll get a synthesis of that in this report. Okay, so this is a good lead into discussion around the decision process. To simplify it, the architect and specifier, or the roofing consultant, depending on who's part of that process, and the actual roofing system manufacturer, so whether that be the shingle manufacturer or the EPDM manufacturer, they are really driving the product type decisions for new construction. So they will actually dictate the type of products to be used. But if you look at it from a retrofit standpoint, which we talked about, that is the majority of the market here, really the product and the brand decisions are really the contractor. And for this product category specifically, a lot of times while the contractor is making that decision, often it's really based on what their distributor or their supplier is carrying. Okay. Now we will talk about fenestration, which includes products such as windows, doors, skylights, curtain wall, and so forth. Silicones are used most frequently, followed by butyls and latex. But this is where we're seeing hybrids are expected to continue to increase in the segment, and particularly in applications where painting and staining is required. The decision process for this segment is very similar to some of the other construction segments in regard to the role of the manufacturer versus the contractor and so forth. This is really one of the subsegments where there's a perceived performance gap. So if you look at, as we had discussions specific to the subsegments, this is really one where there was a lot of discussion around a performance gap today with some of the chemistries available. And it really was a range from cure time to flammability to others. Okay, the DIY segment is a more fragmented, what I would call a more fragmented, unstructured segment involving several applications and, as a result, several different trades and buyers. Applications here range from bathroom applications to kitchens to exteriors and even driveway cracks. And really, due to the nature of the channel, retrofit and replacement also is the majority of this market segment. And a lot of that, again, is being driven by the channel. Latex is the dominant chemistry used, followed by silicones within the segment. So from a volume perspective, big box is the majority, so the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Menards of the world, followed by the hardware or specialty paint stores. And lastly, I think what's unique with this segment is a lot of the decision process is really based more around the dispensing method. So dispensing method was really a hot button from a needs perspective, quality, and then color options and the ability to match. So a little bit different from some of the other segments. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about the automotive segment. Keeping in mind that we're not talking adhesives specifically here, but caulks and sealants. Some of the applications, including the glazing options for stationary windows, body joint seam sealing for the inside frame, hem flange bonding around doors and primers, headlights and so forth. There's a lot of applications where caulks and sealants are being used within the automotive industry. Polyurethanes represent the majority of the market, specific to this auto subsegment, really driven by that stationary window. That's one of the biggest segments of the market. Then you've got, on the other side, PVC being used widely for NVH dampening for noise and vibration harshness. Okay. From a decision maker standpoint, really the target here is the OEM and the tier suppliers. Okay, so again, we joke, I'm kind of bound and gagged by the AAC to not disclose too much information here because they're trying to sell the report here, but we did want to provide, as I'm talking through here, more on the methodology and a little bit of a highlight on some of the findings. We just want to reinforce and provide some of the samples of the excerpts that we get at, and again, it ranges from a lot of quantitative information, identifying opportunities, as well as qualitative details. Okay, so the report has been completed. It's ready for purchase. I would say, based on, we do quite a bit of work with associations, both here locally as well as globally, and I would say from a pricing standpoint, they have significantly discounted the price across the board, whether it be for a member or non-member, especially if you look at the level and the depth of information being provided. Okay. Thank you very much. I would like to, at this point, open it up to questions and additional comments.
Thank you, Katie. And if you have any questions, please submit them into the question box or in the raised hand icon, using the raised hand icon. Katie, there's one question. It says, were polyurethane foam sealants included in this study at all? And it includes like straw foam, gun foams, two-component foams?
It was.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, that would, there is, no. All right, there are more questions coming in. So another question is the aerospace industry included in the report?
It is not. So just within transportation, we are just looking at the automotive subsegment.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Let me just, you know what, from a total market perspective, I believe we have Dave Nick on the phone, correct? I would just like to validate with him that aerospace is included in some of the macro numbers.
Okay, sure. Dave,
yes,
would you like to answer that?
Sure. Aerospace is included in the main North America report, which covers the sealant industry with all applications.
Right, so
The
we don't.
polyurethane is there.
Sure, so from a number standpoint, it's included, but from a detailed perspective on opportunity and decision drivers, we do not cover aerospace.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Not in the Caulks and Sealants report. It
Right.
was focused.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Welcome.
There's another question here. Does the report include USA, Canada, and Mexico?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great. Are the marine markets included in the report?
In the North America report, yes, but not in this particular report, which focused on automotive.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dave. Does the report cover polyether sealants in construction?
Not as a specific call-out, no, but they are in the numbers under other.
Okay, great, thanks. Katie, here's another follow-up on the polyurethane foam products. Are they broken out separately at all, or just part of the total?
Part of the total.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question we have is there any other manufacturing segments included?
Can whoever submitted that question, can they ask a little bit more detail on that?
Sure, I'm sure they can hear us. So, okay. So it seems that it's only automotive, so they want to know if there are other segments included as well.
Nope. So the only subsegments specific to this level of detail in the report is going to be the roofing, fenestration, automotive, as well as the do-it-yourself segment.
Oh, okay, okay. So regarding the marine market, the question has come back asking if we could clarify if the marine markets are included or not. Dave, are you?
Yeah, okay, I'll answer that.
I don't know who's going to answer that one.
Okay. Not in this specific report, no.
Okay,
it's not called out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Another question is if the commercial HVAC construction market is addressed in this report.
No, it is not.
It's not. Okay, great. Is there any mention of CMC or starch-based thickeners as extenders? Are they included in the report, I guess? the question. That's what the question.
From a formulating standpoint, no, we're looking more at the primary resin, not the additives, and the formulating products that are used to develop caulks and sealants.
Oh, okay, great.
Beyond the primary resin.
Thank you. Is the roofing segment broken down between residential and commercial?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. Does the report include hybrids?
It does.
It does, great, thank you. Another question is decision-making drivers in the performance gaps in the residential roofing market, if they are included in the report, I guess?
Yes, they are qualitatively.
Qualitatively. Okay, great, great. Any other questions? Any questions related to methodology can be asked at this time. No pricing or pricing-based or data-based questions are answered. Okay. Hold on. John, do you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How different is this report from the adhesive and sealants or with the global overview report?
Yeah, I think we lost you. We can't hear you clearly at all.
How different is this report from the market study for adhesive and sealants?
Can you hear that? He asked how
different.
Yeah, how different is it?
So, Dave, you could probably talk to this a little bit. I mean, the market reports are very metric-based.
Correct.
And
That's
specific
correct.
to the technologies and the segments. This goes very deep in the subsegments we discussed, so roofing, fenestration, auto, and DIY, where we get into, who are the decision makers, how do they make their decisions, what's the route to market, how big are those segments, what technologies are used, and trends. So it still has the macro numbers, and then we go deep in for the subsegments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Katie. I would request all the attendees to just type in the questions, and I'll read them out if that's okay. Please do that because of the connection and the voice. The sound may not be clear, so please type your questions in. Okay. I don't see any other question. There's one question, but I think it's more data-based. Like, what region of North America has had the highest recent growth rate in the caulks and sealants? So that's more of a data-based question, I'm assuming. Or can we answer that?
I'll try to answer that one. Generally, we are not segregating the data report by region for the country. In this case, the U.S. We do segregate it by the individual countries, U.S., Canada, and Mexico. There are some general comments that one could make because there obviously are differences between the northern part of the U.S. and the southern part because of sealants used in home construction, for example, or fenestration. Automotive would be pretty much the same regardless of the region, depending on where automobiles are produced. So that's really not something, at least I know I don't get into it in the North America report or the other reports that we do, except as requested. Those are quite often very individualized reports for single clients.
Right.
Okay. Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? So and one more question we have is, what methods were used to get the specific market size?
So, Dave, do you want to talk to your part, and then I'll talk about the subsegments?
Sure. No, there's actually three ways to gather the data. One is direct interviews with people who are in that market, representing all levels of their participation, from raw material suppliers to manufacturers of the final sealant product. to distributors, sales agents, big box stores, small hardware stores. We cover pretty much the full gamut of representation. The actual terminology that we work under is a modified Delphi approach. And so we take a number of different answers to the same question and more or less correlate those and then come up with the specific data that we're looking at in that particular end use to see what the numbers would be. We also use some secondary research. That's getting less and less and also less reliable. Things are published on the internet. And then the third thing is our company, and I'm sure Ducker does the same, maintains a fairly significant database of knowledge going over a period of time. And we also look at growth rates, and we can run checks on data by looking at past information, progressing it, how it progresses forward, what it looks like based on economic factors, and a whole series of other things that are put into the numbers. So it's quite a process. There isn't any one really straight answer to that question, but we like to think that the numbers we come up with represent the best possible approach to coming up with a number that's useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, to add to that, very similar process from Ducker's perspective. We take a top-down and bottom-up approach, so that top-down is really the supply base, and then we take that bottom-up approach with whether it be end users, architects, distribution, and to Dave's point, we look at those data points and we understand where are there similarities and where are there differences, and where there's differences we go out and do some more digging to understand those differences. So it's really a combination of kind of that primary research and, again, leveraging a lot of the databases and work that we do in those end-use segments.
Okay, great. Thank you. Before we continue with the other questions, I would like to tell all our attendees that there is an order form to, if you fill that out, you can get your own copy of the report. So in the handout section of the control panel, if you click on that, the order form is right there, so you can download it right now and fill it out to get your own copy. Thank you. I guess I'll continue with the questions. We have two more. Is the market size based upon end user cost or manufacturer's selling price?
Manufacturer.
Manufacturers. Okay, thank you. Another question is, what is the potential business growth for the sealants in auto and construction?
That you have to buy to find out.
Yeah, I figured.
Just to make one point, that's the correct answer to give, but consider the adhesive industry and the sealant industry both. Generally, the growth rate is greater than growth in GDP.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. One last question, I think. Is the market data broken down to brand or manufacturer level at all? I think.
No, it is not.
Okay, yeah.
Not possible in a syndicated study.
Okay. We have one more question. So what % of the market feedback would you estimate is related to chemistry or formulation versus application methods?
The numbers, especially the macro numbers, are very strong on the chemistry side. A lot of the depth and the voice of the customer work, there's a lot of talk about the chemistries, but I would say the application, it's more so on the application.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Katie. Are there any other questions?